Welcome back to an all-new episode of VOLTalk. I'm your host, Vanessa Rodriguez, and today joining me is Tom Anderson from Tennessee is Not for Sale. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Okay, to start off, can you explain what Tennessee is Not for Sale for people who might not know what it is?
Sure. Tennessee is Not for Sale is a statewide coalition group that includes labor unions, community action organizations, individual people. And it's come together a few years ago specifically to fight outsourcing, but also other executive government overreach and just the rampant sale of public resources and privatization of government in all facets.
Okay, can you explain what outsourcing is and how the governor is trying to carry it out?
Sure. Outsourcing in its most basic is taking state jobs that are currently done by state employees or public higher education workers, and outsourcing them to a private for-profit company in a nutshell. And the governor is doing it through an executive budgetary process, so it's going through a procurement process that does not include the legislature or any other oversight. So he's really pushing it through in that way. We've been working with legislators all across the state and other entities to try and create some of that oversight, and it's challenging.
So who does it affect the most and why?
Well, the most direct effect is on the facilities, in this particular case, which is a facilities management outsourcing. So the goal for the state and the governor and his group is to outsource facilities management of all state real estate, of all estate property. In our case, specifically higher education is the one, but it's facilities management. So that encompasses at UT, Knoxville, all of facility services potentially could be sent out to a private company. The scope is actually open-ended, so it could include housekeeping and maintenance and housing. It could include parking services, athletics. Those are currently not really be considered, but all of that could potentially be affected, and folks would lose their jobs. We would get transferred to a private company. We would no longer be state employees, and all of the things that entails.
So many people can possibly lose their job. Why is it such a trend at the federal and local level then?
Sure. And understanding, the source of trends like this can be complex. In the short term, it's really a big sales pitch. The promise is it'll save the state money, and that sounds really attractive. I mean, they say that they can save the state $35 million a year. Wow, that's great, right? But the problem is there's no evidence, there's no data to back that up. Okay. It's like a one-page sales flyer that just has some numbers on it. And part of the reason actually gets into some of the transparency issues. Those numbers come from a private company. That private company is not obligated to anyone to provide any of their budgetary information, so they don't have to share how they came up with that number.
So how does this what effect does this process have on good, transparent government and public services for our state?
Right. I think that the best way to understand that is kind of break that into the 3 points. There's good government, transparency in government, and public services, right? Okay. And first of all, transparency, it really destroys transparency. It's an extremely negative effect because, like I just said, private companies are not subject to sunshine laws. They're not subject to freedom of information requests, at least not directly. And attempting to get that information from a private company, even if it's managing a public resource, is a years-long legal process, and then once you get the information, is it redacted and that kind of thing. So transparency really ends. It's bad government. It's also kind of lazy government, because when it's public employees doing the work, we're answerable to the legislature, to the executive branch, and to the voters, right? All of our information is public. Our budgets are public. Our pay is public. Everybody knows what the benefits are, And we're answerable to that. So what we spend, I work as a buyer in facilities here at UT Knoxville, and so my job is to find the materials we need to support the campus to make sure the research can happen, or things like the journalism school can continue to function in an effective way for the best possible price, right? And everything I order, the orders, the amounts that we pay, who we buy it from, all of that is public. When you go to a privatization, to an outsource, none of that is public. The public has no access and has no control. We had privatized custodial services here at UT Knoxville for a number of years. And one of the main problems we had was control, because we had no control over the private sector employees. If a student had a complaint against an outsourced worker or a professor or a dean, whoever it is, they would contact us and say, this individual is a problem. All we could do is report that individual to the private company. Once you do that, it's just internal to the private company, and they do what they want. And it was an increasing problem over the years, and we got a lot of complaints. When we brought it back in-house, not only did it not cost any more money, in some ways we kind of saved money, we got far better services, and when we have issues, whether it's something not getting done or issues with employee or interaction, we can take immediate steps to correct that action, and we can anticipate that, and take control of that. So, and it's really just responsible care for public services. It's more than just a budget line. It's not just saving money on a budget line in a state so he can spend money on something else he wants to spend it on. It's taking responsible care of our resources, of the buildings, of the housing that the students live in, that the learning environment, the grounds, the custodian, keeping things clean, supporting the infrastructure, making sure the wiring and the cabling is done correctly, and we can give an immediate response when there's a problem. We have a Tennessee One call. You make a phone call, and we can have somebody on the scene to deal with a problem immediately. Plumbers one night responded to a leak in a dorm that was going down floors, and while they were in the process of addressing that issue, there was a power outage, so they lost power. Now, most private companies would leave and wait for the power to come on. But our crew went to the truck, got battery-operated work lights, went back to the site, and worked through the power outage in the dark. They got that addressed, so the students had water.
So outsourcing will definitely have an impact on UT's campus.
Oh,
clearly.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So how did you personally get involved with Tennessee is Not for Sale?
I got involved in Tennessee is Not for Sale through United Campus Workers, which is the staff and faculty union at public sector across the state. We started here at the University of Tennessee in 99 and 2000. And, we found out about the push to outsource early in August of 2015. Okay. And, just looking at all the other avenues and ways that the governor has really tried to take control of public resources. And, the only way we're going to take control of our state is by getting involved.
So what do you have to say to the people who believe these type of organizations like Tennessee is Not for Sale, who are seeking change, don't actually accomplish anything?
Right. And that's a good question. And, it does, and probably the most obvious thing is the original timeline for this process actually had the contract signed more than a year ago. Okay. So they had they wanted to push it through. We made it public. We said, look, this is what they want to do. They want to take thousands of state jobs all across the state, and they want to shuffle it off to a private company. A private company, and the company that they want to award this to is out of state. And there are two subcontracted companies, both of which are out of state. So that's tax money, our tax dollars going to a profit out of state. So that's tax revenue that's lost. The economic impact goes beyond that, in that local businesses get cut out of contracts and supplies and that sort of thing. So we've brought public awareness to this. There were 2 public comment periods that the state hosted to find out what the public feelings were on outsourcing, and there were, I'm not sure, around 1,500, nearly 2,000 responses, and all of them were negative against outsourcing. Nobody wanted to outsource the care of our resources to some private out-of-state company, because state employees, and employees here at the university, this is our university. We're a part of the campus. This is our home. We feel very deeply and very personally about that. It's not the same when you work for a private company, and we have direct experience of that. So, we've activated the legislature. We're working on legislation that would create legislative oversight for this moving forward in the future, and that's moving through its slow legislative process.
So how many UT employees will be affected? Roughly.
Yeah, the potential is there are 700 positions in facilities currently. We're actually running at a short-staffed currently. So, close to 700 potentially, certainly over 6. That's just in facilities. If, it was to expand beyond that into housekeeping, then, there are those employees and other maintenance and management staff across the campus. So certainly hundreds.
The last point, how has the response been in regards to Tennessee is Not for Sale? Has it been positive, negative, a mix?
It's really universally been positive.
Okay.
Anybody I've talked to, not just in the Knoxville area, but across the state, when you talk to them about, who do you want to take care of your public resources? It's state employees. It seems like the few folks who really talk positively about this is the folks in the executive office that is pushing this, some of the folks in the procurement office, general services, and the governor. And it's really based on this idea that it's going to save money, which it doesn't. In the long run, all evidence and experience is that it doesn't save money. Service gets worse. There are contract changes and things that aren't covered under contract. They can charge whatever they want to, and ads and ads and ads, and it costs money. And so it doesn't save money. The service is worse. And I think people understand that when you talk to folks, even in the legislature on both sides of the aisles. They know they have state employees in their district, and they know that will negatively affect them and our families, our kids, our ability to raise our families and put our kids through school.
So has UT employees, have they gone to our administration to see if they will opt in or opt out?
Yeah, we've worked a lot in a lot of different ways, both through administrative, channels, through employee rep committees. We've gotten a very strong support from students, faculty, and staff outside of facilities to really talk about what it means, what the difference is between having a private company do facilities and the important work that we do. The fact that we're a part of the core mission, which is something that our new Chancellor Davenport has talked about, which is very encouraging. The governor in the procurement process, they kind of own the process and they've set the schedule. So, unfortunately, our administration can't just say, we understand and we can opt out. We're going to opt out now. They have to compare it, and we can provide any data. If we're doing a direct data comparison, we're happy to put our numbers out there, because we operate at a cost savings already, and we provide exemplary service. So we've worked very hard both through public action, traditional news media, social media, and through every channel we can to communicate that.
So if anybody wants to get involved with Tennessee is Not for Sale, how do they get in contact with you guys?
Yeah, well, we've got a Facebook page, Tennessee is Not for Sale. On Facebook, we've got a Twitter. There are links there. United Campus Workers is also online on Facebook and our webpage, and there are links through to Tennessee is Not for Sale through United Campus Workers.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, Tom, for coming today. And we'll see you guys all next week.